Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to a special bonus episode of the Most Excellent Entertainment Podcast. I am your host, Keith, and with me this week, or this time, or at this moment, is my friend Paul Allen, who has been on the show before, pretty recently, actually. But I also recently reviewed his album, The Dead Poet.
Yeah, that was a kind of a last minute name change.
Yeah, so we're hopping on here to talk about the album and just give you all a quick little rundown on it and see what inspired Paul to create this thing. So yeah, I think that one of the interesting things about how you recorded this album, at least, is the process. When people listen to it, they're going to hear that it's pretty raw, just vocals and guitar.
Mm.
What? Why did you choose to do that, and how did you go about recording the album?
Yeah, so I knew that I wanted to kind of go back to my original sound, which was just vocals and guitar. That was how I got my start, and this year so happens to be the 10th anniversary of my first proper album. Um, Louder Than Hell came out September 11th, 2015. And so I thought, what better way to commemorate 10 years than putting out another album of a similar vein?
Sure.
As far as
So
how I recorded it, it's the damnedest thing. I've never recorded an album like this. Um, I have a this recorder right here that has two channels or two microphones here. So what I did is I sat my amp essentially a foot away from my head. I sat the recorder like right here, so it was equally picking up the amp and my voice. And I hit record. And then I used an app called Moises to separate the vocals and the audio, or the vocals and the guitar. And then I kind of mixed and mastered it. I messed a little bit with my vocals just to make it sound a little bit more gritty than what it was. I didn't really do anything to the guitars though. I left those as is.
that's super interesting, and the idea that like someone could record like that, I mean, it's just wild.
Yeah, I mean, I've been blessed with, recording in studios, recording in home studios. Um, I primarily because I could have easily recorded this in a studio. Um, but I wanted to do it this way just as a way to show people who might be interested in making music of their own. Like, hey, like if you have a guitar and your voice and that's it, you know, you can record on anything. You can even technically record on your phone. Um, and if you have a decent enough phone mic, like, record some demos. Don't let lack of money to record in studio stop you from recording, basically.
So when I did my review, I spoke about the fact that there were some songs that I felt really could have benefited from maybe even a drum track, like even if it wasn't a live drummer or a little bit of bass just to beef up the sound. Um, it's really unusual, especially for metal, to just be a voice and a guitar. Um, and I know we kind of already talked about why you chose to do it that way, but why did you start out doing that? Like, was it a necessity thing, or was it to make yourself unique? Like, I'm interested in that.
I could tell you a very fancy bullshit story, but the truth is I couldn't find band members.
Fair.
It's funny because there are plenty of guitarists in Indiana. There's plenty of bassists. There's a plethora of vocalists. Every drummer that you find in Indiana is already in 6 or 7 other bands. And that made things very hard to really find somebody who could play with me, be it just practice, session, or, let alone live. Um, so it's just like, you know what? Like, I want to do this. I know that this is probably going to not work. I didn't think that it was going to work. And the first show, it didn't. But then the second show, it started to catch on. The third show was absolute bananas. And then it just kept getting better from there. I think that doing metal without bass and drums is a bold approach that I was not necessarily bold enough to make. But what I did, truthfully, was just pretend that nobody was there. And if people enjoyed it, they enjoyed it. If not, oh well, I'll be off in like 10 to 15 minutes. I've always done music for myself. I've never done it with the intent of, you know, being famous with it or anything like that. I just enjoy doing it. That's why, even though I haven't really performed in 6 years, that's why I still record. I just enjoy recording. Whenever I do perform, because I'm working on a few shows this year, actually. God, I'm going to have so many new songs I have to play because I've released more albums since I retired from performing than I did while I was performing.
I mean,
So
that makes sense.
that was a very long-winded answer, but
Yeah, it's all good. Um, yeah, because most people in that situation would probably go get an acoustic guitar.
oh
You
yeah, and
know?
I mean, eventually I did,
Yeah.
but I never I didn't connect with acoustic music until much later. Like I've always been a huge fan of metal, and that's what I wanted to do. So it's like I may not be able to find band members at that time, but fuck that. Like, I'm gonna still do it anyway.
Right on.
And at its core, that's ultimately what metal is about. Is if you enjoy doing it for whatever reason, whatever your motivation may be, then fuck what everyone else says.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's about that and Vikings and fairies and barbarians.
I can't say I've ever sung about Tinkerbell, but I digress.
um,
I've sung about Satan a few times,
yeah, I didn't mention demons. I was gonna mention demons. It's so funny, like I feel like other than glam, obviously, most metal starts with Satan.
Oh yeah.
like, like thrash. There's a documentary on the early thrash scene. It's called Get Thrashed, and they're literally just talking about like how Venom was super satanic and like all and everyone's saying about
Venom
Satan.
was never thrash metal. That's almost as blasphemous
Oh,
as
you know
they
what?
are.
Exodus. I apologize. It was Exodus.
Man, I was about to say, how are you mixing up Venom and Exodus?
Eh. They both have big fang looking things on their logo.
They're on the opposite sides of the alphabet.
Anyway, I meant to say Exodus. I'm sorry. And the thing
No,
is, I'm a pretty big Exodus fan. I actually saw Exodus live. Toxic Waltz is such a great song. And I never thought of them as being satanic in the least. But I guess their early days in San Francisco, like they sang about the devil. It's just weird.
I think that a lot of bands do it, either A, for shock, or B, as more of a statement of rebellion against, any established religion.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I don't. I've known a number of artists and bands who have had satanic lyrics, and almost none of them actually believe what they're saying.
Yeah.
It's
Except the
um,
guy in Behemoth. He
yeah, yeah.
loved the devil.
Well, but even them, like they're not just another band that is just randomly pushing Satanism, for belief or otherwise. That they, from my understanding, and I may be wrong, and please don't crucify me in the comments if I am wrong, but
Hey now.
um, that that came out a different way than I intended. But my understanding is that they are outspoken about that because of the fact that Poland, which is where they are from, um, is
It's
pretty
like illegal
strict.
not to be a Christian there. It's
Yeah,
very odd. Yeah.
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 Um, So, to my understanding, that's why they do that. It's a form of defiance, basically.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about this privately, and we'll get back to your album obviously very soon. But since it's sort of along the vein of what we're talking about, I saw a documentary where their singer was basically like, I was really, really depressed. I was living in an oppressive Catholic household. I kept trying to run away. Um, and then I found Satan. And he basically feels like Satan gave his life direction and saved him from this oppressive Catholic upbringing. It's a very
Mhm.
odd way to look at the devil, but
I
who am
think
I?
that,
You know?
you know, I think that people find different things to cling to whenever they need an escape.
Yeah,
Um, that doesn't make anything more or less valid than another thing, but um, I haven't seen this documentary, so I'd actually be interested because as you know, following me on Airbuds, I listen to a fair amount of Behemoth. I'm a huge fan
yeah,
of their work. Not crazy about the lyrics, obviously, but I do enjoy the music.
right.
Um,
I
so
honestly couldn't get through it. Once it got to the Satan stuff, it was too much for me because it seemed almost like the Nazi like rallying videos that they used to play, like to get people psyched about being Nazis. It seemed like that. Like it seemed, and I just couldn't deal with it anymore. The stuff about his upbringing was really cool until it got to the Satan stuff, and then it was like, wow, it's just.
mhm.
And maybe it would have taken another turn if I had continued watching it, but I turned it off. Couldn't deal with it. And that was actually when I was this is getting way too theological for what I thought we were going to talk about. But that was actually when I considered myself an atheist, and I still felt like I didn't want to know about people turning to evil as a form of safe, like a safe haven. And that's
Mhm.
kind of how I felt about that whole documentary. So I just shut it off. But
Mhm.
anyway, back to your album. I was given by you advanced MP3s of the album, and at the time it was called The Parasite.
Yeah.
Um,
So to quickly explain that,
yeah,
not to cut you off, but I basically between some select older songs and some newer songs, I had enough for basically two albums. So I'm like, fuck it, I'm going to do a double album here. So there is still an album called The Parasite, and the first track on it is The Parasite, which you have heard. But the album that you listen to technically is now The Dead Poet.
right. And I was going to follow up with when you pulled The Parasite from that album and
Mhm.
replaced it with another track. And I was going to ask if there was plans to use The Parasite somewhere else, but apparently you answered that
Yeah.
in your answer. So apparently
There
there
you
is.
go.
Yeah.
I knew that you were going to ask, so
Yeah. Yeah.
I had to
Mind
say
to mind,
his answer.
mind to mind communication. Um, so I don't have the track listing in front of me. Obviously, you know it better than I do. But do you want to talk a little bit about the track that you pulled the Parasite for and put the new track on because it's different than anything else that's on the album. So it was an interesting choice to put that on there.
Yeah, so the song that I replaced it with is called Let's Dance Together One More Time. But in order to really explain that song, I almost have to uh, go over the rest of the album because it's a story.
Okay.
Um, and the reason that The Parasite didn't really belong on the album is because The Parasite is a very angry song that admittedly, and I'm not proud of this necessarily, but it kind of comes from a place of hate, like um, not necessarily against like one specific person, but it's an angry song. It's a situational angry song. Being screwed over by people and um, escaping toxic situations, friendships, relationships. It's a very different song than the rest of the album. Um, so that is why I separated that. But the song Um, I'll just I'll go through the first
Yeah,
six
go
songs and
for it,
then
man.
go to the one you actually asked about. So, The Dead Poet opens up with "Don't Wake Me Up," which is a bit of a mental health song, and um, basically like asking, what more do I have to lose? Um, it's certainly about some things that I've been through over the last few years that, frankly, I thought was going to do me in. And that's kind of the story of the entire album, truthfully. Um, it goes into another song called Kill Me, Drink My Blood, which is a song about essentially some religious beliefs that I once actually held. I don't talk about that as much as I used to a few years ago. Um, but it talks about that, and it's basically like, um, you can do whatever you want to me. Basically, you can kill me, you can do whatever, but I'm no longer going to sacrifice who I am. I'm no longer going to stay down and try to be someone I'm not. And if people don't like that, then there's the door. um, Only When I Die. That's the next song. I have the track list in front of me as well as the lyrics.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so Only When I Die is it's kind of a twofold song. And I'm surprised that you didn't pick up on the cameo appearance in the song. Well, you kind of
I heard someone. Yeah, 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 yeah.
but um, so Only When I Die is both a song about, I am now at the place where I am going to uh I'm going to have kind of that no mercy outlook, right? Where, if um if you don't like who I am, that's fine. I don't need you. If you're going to stab me in the back, that's fine. I don't need you. Don't expect me to be buddy buddy though. Um, and it's also combined with that, it's actually also a song that is kind of a nod to Cobra Kai, which is my favorite TV show. Um,
Yeah,
I can't imagine any hints that I'm a Cobra Kai fan. Um,
yeah.
I don't have the logo tattooed on my hand or anything like that. Um, but it's a very Cobra Kai inspired song. It goes through, strike first, strike hard, no mercy. And I've adapted that. This might sound stupid to people, but I've kind of adapted that mindset. Like, whatever I do, I'm going to do it with intent, and that's what the song is about. And it uses kind of it uses a sound bite from Cobra Kai where Peyton List shouts "No Mercy" from season 3
Oh,
finale. Now I actually in the new version of this song have taken that out just because I couldn't figure out how to make it fit and sound proper. To me, it just sounded out of place, and I couldn't make it not out of place in my own mind. Um, if that changes, it's something I would like to put back in the song, but I have to mess around with it some more. I have
yeah.
until September though.
Yeah, I thought it sounded melodic. I didn't even realize it was a sample. I thought you
Yeah.
had a chick yell "No Mercy" on the song. So that's funny.
Well, technically, the directors of Cobra Kai had her yell it a few years ago.
Right, right, right.
um, so Only When I Die goes into The Runaway, which has one of my favorite breakdown riffs that I've written. And the thing about this entire album really is like I would come up with the main riffs, the like the chorus, the verse, and then I was just like, you know what? fuck it, I'm gonna improvise some. And so every song on this album has some improv, and most of them are one take. Most of the songs, I wrote, I composed, I practiced, and then I hit record, and that was it. This was one of them where actually partway through the second verse, I thought to myself, I'm probably going to go ahead and redo this. But then I had an idea for another riff towards the end, and I was like, I'm going to try this. So I did, and I just kept going with it. And I'm like, oh my God, I love this too much to not make it the song. So that's that. Then we have Louder Than Ever, which is actually it's kind of a follow-up actually to my song Louder Than Hell from my album Louder Than Hell that came out 10 years ago. Um, it's basically about how, people told me, and even at my first show, people told me that it wasn't going to make it past the first show. There wasn't going to be there wasn't going to be anything for me after that. Which first off, that's very fucking shitty to say, and don't say that to people. But it's basically kind of a middle finger to people who said that I wasn't gonna do anything with music because there's not that many bands that are still around from 2015 in Indiana. And the ones that are, you know, they're absolutely incredible and absolutely deserve to still be around. I also would like to point out to people that have told me that I wasn't going to do anything. I am just under 15 million streams now,
It's wild.
10 million of which roughly are on one song that just randomly blew up. So if I ain't going to make it, someone better tell my haters. um, but anywho, not to get too off track. And then it goes into the last song, The Dead Poet, which you'll notice a recurring theme throughout the entire album, of like struggle and trying to overcome and um, just trying to just overcome different obstacles and adversities. And The Dead Poet is kind of it's like the closing chapter of that story. um, it's about like, the opening line of it is, the day has come, I know I've been on borrowed time. And that's true for me. Like, I've always been playing music on borrowed time because of my health. And I don't know when the last time is actually going to be. Um, so The Dead Poet is a song that is written basically as a massive thank you to the people that have ever listened to my work. It's a thank you to the fans who have followed me, whether they've only recently started following me, whether they've been following me since the beginning. Um, it's a way of saying thank you, basically, and um, it goes into the final song, "Let's Dance Together One More Time," which is a celebration. Um, I actually co-wrote. This is the first Till Paul Gideon style song that I've co-written with somebody, which was very different for me because the whole point of that style for me is being able to do it completely independent, where I don't have to, um, try to, where I don't have to worry about like, are we going to have the same vision or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, but I co-wrote it with Anya, and I'm super, super proud of it. Like, whenever I told her the concept for it and we got to writing, I mean, she understood the assignment, and
Nice.
that was it was cool to see. Like, I only truthfully I only wrote some of it. Like, I wrote the first four lines, and then she kind of did most of the rest. Um,
Nice.
And like I said, it's kind of a celebration piece, really. And it's like, if this is the last time, if this is the last time that I get to do an album like this, then I'm happy with it.
Right on, man. So, are you officially not releasing the album until September? Is that what I got from
Yeah,
her?
I'm gonna put it out on September 11th, just like Louder Than Hell.
Okay.
And the reason for that is because I'm planning, and I'm still working on this, but I'm planning a 10-year anniversary show, and I'd like to actually play both albums, Louder Than Hell and The Dead Poet, uh, back to back.
Cool.
So
So, is there going to be singles released off the album leading up to September, or are we just going to have to wait?
technically, Let's Dance Together One More Time has already been released as a single. It's out on Spotify, YouTube Music, all those.
Awesome.
Um, and I'll probably trickle out a couple more.
Okay.
There's only 7 songs on The Dead Poet.
Right. Right.
So, I the only question really is, which other song am I going to release, or which other couple of songs? Because I definitely want people to buy the album or stream it so that they can hear it all as it was intended to be heard, which is at once, because it's basically a concept album.
Yeah. Right on, man. Well, um, I enjoyed the album a lot. Uh, I definitely felt like it was something that people should check out if they're into metal. So, um, yeah, I guess everybody just keep on eagle-eyed um, on Paul's Spotify and the other
Mhm.
places you can find him. If you want to go ahead and tell people where they can find your music, let's do that real quick.
I'm on pretty much every streamer aside from Apple and iTunes. I do have some stuff on Apple and iTunes, but none of my new stuff is going to be. Um, so Spotify, YouTube Music. I'm even, fun fact, on some site called Deezer, which I've never actually heard of, but
Oh, he's a sure, yeah. I
they
know.
they pay me. So
There you go. Give you a call. That's the beauty of a system like DistroKid. You
Mhm.
pay them, they put you everywhere, and then you get paid.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
it's funny because some of the sites that I actually get royalties from, I've never even heard of. Um,
that's amazing.
the funny the funny thing is, or at least I find it funny, people might think it's dumb, but so my mom used to listen to iHeartRadio like it was a religion. Like, I'm
Sure.
talking through the day, through the night. um and now most of my music is on iHeartRadio too.
That's fantastic.
So it's funny, like kind of a full circle moment, I guess.
Yeah.
So hey, if you're an iHeartRadio fan, I'm on there.
Right on, brother. All right, cool. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me for a moment, and hopefully this will get some interest in the upcoming album. And everybody, we will be back every Tuesday morning at 5 a.m. dropping the new episodes of Most Excellent Entertainment, and also popping up every once in a while with some bonus content, because we like to do that around here. So thank you to Tyler Martin. Sorry for throwing a little bit of extra work on you, bud. But you know, I'm sure it'll be fine. Thanks a lot to Paul for stopping in, man.
Absolutely, thank you. And one more thing before I hop off:
Absolutely.
keep an eye out this summer, the Dead Poet Tour.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, man. So we'll keep an eye out for that. All right, everybody. So take care, and keep your eye out also for more Most Excellent Entertainment.